Hey guys, RanterInShades here, exercising my first amendment rights vlog style, and welcome to episode number 11, yes, and there's Butters, of Shades Shirt Collection, that series I make videos for that nobody asks me to, but I do anyway. I was originally planning on waiting until after I go to my last concert this year, which is in December, to make this, but I figured since December is busy for me, because that's when I'm working on Best and Worst Songs, the year-end chart drops at the beginning of December, and then I spend like a week writing both of the scripts, and then I film the both of them and spend like the last week of December editing the both of them to have up at the beginning of January. It's busy for me, to say the least. And I already have another video planned for December that I'm actually pretty much done editing at this point. So I figured I should fill this gap of time with some videos, and I figured I should just knock this one out and begin the next shirt collection video with the last concert of this year. It's gonna be kind of weird, but you know. So before I get to actually talking about the shirts, I will start this by talking about the next in the chronology of the concerts I went to. It was the concert that I talked about in my last video, the What's Wrong With on Dragon Force, the Angelo Batio show that I went to. There weren't any shirts available at this show, and I didn't really feel like going online to get one. I'm not sure I would have really liked any of the designs, but Angelo Batio is somebody who's been on my concert bucket list for a long time, because like I said in the Dragon Force video, I wanted to see to believe all the crazy shit that he does, and I finally got to see it before my very eyes. I got to see him play the V-shaped double neck that you see on the screen right now. I got to see him play both left and right-handed. I got to see him play over the neck. I got to see him do that fast flipping over the neck thing that he does. He played both 6 and 7 string guitars, and he did talk a good bit there and tell a lot of stories, but overall, this was a treat. And unfortunately, this was one of those backing track performance shows like I saw Buckethead do when I saw him, and like I saw Andy James do when I saw him open for Scale the Summit and Angel Vivaldi. It's always unfortunate seeing that, because I believe everybody deserves some people to play with. They shouldn't have to do this by themselves. But nonetheless, I had a pretty good time at this. I made a trip out to Rhode Island for this, because that was like the closest state to where I am that he was playing at. And when I got there, it was around the time he walked in, and I snagged a selfie with him, which was pretty cool. So now that that's out of the way, let's shimmy on over to the side and make room for my visuals. So the first shirt I got here is of a band that I've seen before. This is my third time seeing them, my second time seeing them open for someone else. The first 2 times I saw this band were both in 2016, weirdly enough, and I was really excited to see this band on the bill opening for the particular band that I'm going to be talking about next. This band would be I the Mighty. I've mentioned a few times on this channel before, but I the Mighty is one of my favorite, like, current rock bands. They're a very, very good prog rock band. They have a lot of interesting influences and elements in their sound, and they're a band that I just think more people should be listening to, especially if you like prog. So this was the shirt that I picked up. I like blue, and I think blue and pink actually mix really well together. I liked this design. That skull didn't seem too edgy. I liked the way that their logo looked, and it's a pretty comfortable shirt too. And I think this is actually the cover art of the single that they had put out at the time, which is called Cave-In, as it says there on the sides. And I'm taking this as an indication that they are working on some new material for next year, I think, hopefully. I hope they have a new album coming out soon, because I really like when they put out stuff. I loved their last couple albums. Now, who were I the Mighty opening for? They're opening for a band that I featured in my favorite quote-unquote one-hit wonder bands video. They're also a band that I would have featured in my Bands I'd Love to See Reunite video had their hiatus announcement not been too recent. And FYI, that's the same reason that I didn't feature My Chemical Romance in that video, nor did I feature System of a Down in that video, because System of a Down actually isn't broken up. They're just not recording new music. This band would be Anberlin. Anberlin, I think, is one of the most unique and interesting sounding pop-punk alternative emo bands, and they have some really good material. Feel Good Drag's an awesome song, but they have lots of great songs outside of that, and I was really excited to hear that they were announcing a tour, so I'm like, fuck yeah, I need to go to this, because you never know if they're ever going to be doing anything ever again, so usually when that happens, I just jump right on it. They put on a pretty cool show. It was interesting to see this house packed and everybody singing along and all that. Their singer, Stephen Christian, he was also really cool to see up on stage. This was pretty fun. This was the design that I liked best of the shirts they had. This doesn't look like any of their album covers, It kind of reminds me of the cover of their album Cities, but that's mostly the colors talking. This actually isn't a shirt that's a part of my regular rotation. I didn't really get too much mileage, but this was what I picked up, and other than that, yeah, this was solid. Next, this is another concert that's slightly out of my ballpark, but I still had an unbelievable time at this show. This would be Weird Al Yankovic, the undisputed, undeniable king of parody and comedy music. This is another thing that really just jumped out at me, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to this. This is gonna be fun. And honestly, this is one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my life. The atmosphere was amazing. He had a whole orchestra backing him along with his band. There was a lot of corresponding imagery, including a video montage of some of the cameo appearances that Weird Al's made over the years, including that Simpsons episode where he makes a cameo, the episode where Homer's living with the two gay guys and Marge hires Weird Al to play a parody of Jack and Diane by John Cougar Mellencamp about Homer and Marge. That and a number of other appearances he's made in media over the years, including his appearance in the Epic Rap Battles video that he was in, the one with Isaac Newton versus Bill Nye, where he played Isaac Newton. They only showed his verse, they didn't show the Bill Nye verse, but it was still cool that that was included. Weird Al was just all over the place. There was just so much energy. He also did a lot of wardrobe changes, costume changes for certain songs, like when he did Smells Like Nirvana, he dressed up like Kurt Cobain, including having a left-handed guitar on him. When he did Dare to Be Stupid, he and his band dressed up like Devo. When he did an encore performance of Yoda, he and pretty much everybody on stage dressed up in Star Wars costumes, including a prop of R2-D2 on stage. It was insane how fun this concert was. That said, the only problem that I had was that there was a number of songs that he left off. Like, he didn't play any of the Michael Jackson parodies. Now, this could be because of the fucking Leaving Neverland bullshit still going on, which, like I said in the last shirt collection video, watch Razor Fist's videos. But he didn't do Fat, the parody of Bad, and he didn't do Eat It, the parody of Beat It. He also didn't do another one, Rides the Bus, or Pretty Fly for a Rabbi, or Canadian Idiot, or I'll Sue Ya. There was a good bit that he left out that I was kind of disappointed that he didn't do. Thankfully, he didn't leave out my favorite song of his. It's still my favorite after all these years, White and Nerdy, the parody of Ridin' by Chameleonaire, where he also dressed up like a gangster. I had a blast with this, and this was the shirt I picked up. It shows him playing an upright bass, which, yes, that's what it's called. I don't call it a double bass because I associate double bass with drums, not bass. And pretty cool picture, pretty cool design, and I like the colors. There's also tour dates on the back. Again, I like the colors here. I saw him out in Boston, out by Boston Harbor over there. So, like I said, this is one of the best concerts I've ever freaking been to. Oh my god. Next is another bucket list band for me, or rather, the guitarist of this band is a bucket list musician. I've been wanting to see this particular musician live for a very long time because he's one of the craziest guitarists out right now. This band would be the Aristocrats. I keep wanting to say Aristocats because it's a movie that I loved as a kid. It's a really underrated movie that not a lot of people talk about, and because of that, I keep imagining the members of this band with cat ears and whiskers. But yeah, the Aristocrats is an instrumental prog rock band. I guess you could call them a supergroup. On bass and drums is Joe Satriani's previous rhythm section of Brian Beller and Marco Miniman on bass and drums, and on guitar is none other than Guthrie Govan. Now, I've been wanting to see Guthrie Govan for ages, because if you know Guthrie Govan, you know he's freaking incredible. And that kind of relates to how I found out about this band. I found out about them in 2014 because I was wondering why Guthrie Govan had only released one solo album, Erotic Cakes, and why he hadn't done any other solo albums, and I found out it's because he has this band, and on bass and drums is Brian Beller and Marco Miniman. And it's like, holy shit, Guthrie Govan and Satriani's bassist and drummer. Why the fuck haven't I heard about this? And so I figured if I'm not going to see Guthrie Govan solo, I might as well see him with this band, because all three of these musicians are just incredible. Marco Miniman is one of my favorite drummers, and Brian Beller is a pretty good bassist. Another interesting thing about this band is that all three of the members are from different countries. Brian Beller is American, Marco Miniman is German, and Guthrie is British. And because he's American, Brian Beller did most of the talking. This was pretty wild. I had a pretty fun time at this one. This was the shirt I picked up. There was only 2 designs, and this was the much better of the 2 because I like how yellow and black mix. The design is more extravagant. I like the way the logo looks. And along with that, I feel like the 3 guys on this kind of represent each of the members. The guy in the center's definitely got to be Guthrie. The guy to the right of him's definitely Marco because he has a drum, which by process of elimination would make the 3rd guy Brian Beller. So yeah, this was a cool one. Next, we got another bucket list band, a band that I've been waiting to see for fucking ever, because the last couple of times I remember them being on tour, I was on vacation each of the times they came by here. This band is actually sort of the subject of one of my recent videos, as well as of a What's Wrong With that I made that I view as one of my better ones. This band would be Slipknot. I saw them right around the time when We Are Not Your Kind came out, so it was right on the cusp of that album going to #1. So it was great timing. This concert was a blast. And as much as I wish that Joey Jordison was still in the band, as much as I wish that Chris Fiend was still in the band, as much as I wish that Paul Gray could still be alive, this was a band that I knew I had to make a point to see, because I'd been wondering for a very long time, like, what a live performance from them is like. Like, what does Clown do on stage? What does Sid Wilson do? What does Craig Jones do? What do they do? And I finally got to see what they do and what their setup looks like. There was a lot of movement from them on stage. Like, it was pretty energetic and action-packed. In particular, I really liked seeing Mick Thompson and Jim Root, and Corey Taylor, of course, was nice. They pretty much had a near-perfect set. Like, everything I would want them to play, they played, though there was a pretty noticeable lack of material from .5 The Gray Chapter, which I was surprised to learn that it isn't really an album that a lot of people like, because I remember really liking that album when it came out, but apparently it's viewed as like the least favorite in their discography. And they didn't do too much from We Are Not Your Kind either. They played mostly classic material of theirs, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. And opening for them, they had Behemoth, who I skipped their set because I'm not really a fan of Behemoth, and then they had Gojira, who were awesome. Then they had Volbeat, who were okay. I'm not really the hugest fan of Volbeat either, but Rob Caggiano, he is the saving grace of that band. He's such a good guitarist. It's kind of unfortunate because the last time I saw Volbeat was when they were opening for Metallica, when I saw them in 2017, so now Volbeat to me is basically the band that opens for metal legends. And then Slipknot came on, and this was just excellent. This was the shirt I picked up. This was the design I liked the best. I like how kind of shaded the band photo looks, and I'm guessing this was probably taken before Chris Fiend left the band, because we can still see him in his Pinocchio mask there, and because I don't think they would have had time to take a whole new photo with the guy that they had to replace him. And even though light blue isn't really a color I associate with Slipknot, I like how it looks against the gray. Get it? Gray. So I like this a lot. It's not as edgy as you'd expect a Slipknot shirt to be, because I don't really like getting shirts with too edgy of designs, so this one suited me just fine. And because of course they have the budget for it, there's tour dates on the back. And this is a very interesting layout for the back. You see some edges and lines and whatnot, and the dates are sort of zigzagged on there. I saw them over in Mansfield at my favorite outdoor venue, the Xfinity Center. One thing I also find kind of funny about the back is how We Are Not Your Kind is abbreviated right there, and, well, I know, I have such a dirty mind. Next, you see the title of this video and what it says there. It's the moment you've all been waiting for clicking on this video. Dun 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 Alter Bridge! So this was my 4th time seeing them, my 3rd time seeing them headline. Of course, I'm never going to pass up an opportunity to see them because, I mean, they're my favorite band. Why would I not see them? But this one is a special one. You see, their date in Massachusetts was 2 days before my 26th birthday last month. And because it was occurring so close, for an early birthday present, I got a VIP pass for this. I showed up a good bit early. I got to see the sound check where they played a couple songs, one of which was the first single from their new album, Wouldn't You Rather, and the other, this made my day. They played my favorite song, the song that was #1 in my favorite Alter Bridge songs video, Cry of Achilles, so I'm like, oh my god, this is just too perfect. Then I got my picture taken with the band here, and I was pretty satisfied. I was planning on having them sign my red PRS SE Custom 24, but there wasn't going to be a signing, and there wasn't a Q&A either, which is why this doesn't top when I met Satriani back in 2008, but I'm still, to this day, in disbelief that I actually got to meet Alter Bridge. I got to tell them how much I love their music, and just to be this close to them and in their presence. It's like there's almost never an opportunity to actually get to meet your favorite band. So now I've met my favorite band and my favorite musician. The VIP experience was kind of brief for my liking, a lot more brief than I was expecting, but I'm still glad that I did it. And this was the shirt I got. It has the very, very, very awesome cover of their new album, Walk the Sky, which, let me talk a bit about this, because if you've watched my Should Bands Singleize Their Releases video, I've mentioned that I don't like listening to singles when they come out because I like waiting for the album to come out to listen to it in full. I figured because they were probably going to play at least a few of the singles from this album, I decided to listen to all 5 of the singles beforehand, just so I knew what they sounded like. And the sound on these songs was different. Like, the production sounded kind of different, even though they were working with the same producer that they've been working with, Michael Elvis Basquet. I was kind of skeptical on how much I would like this album. I knew that I probably wasn't going to like it as much as Last Hero. I definitely was not going to like it as much as Fortress or Blackbird, but I was hopeful that the rest of the album would sound better and just really give the album some beef, and it did. Like, if I had made my Alter Bridge video this year, I would definitely put Walking on the Sky and Forever Falling on the list. Those songs were the best on the album, especially Walking on the Sky. I loved that. So I was mostly correct with my speculations. I walked out of this album feeling relieved, especially given how skeptical I was going into this, and I'm glad that happened. And I know I mentioned in the Mary Spender video that this was going to be Album of the Year for me. It's actually tied for Album of the Year for me with Bayside's new album that actually dropped literally the next day after I went to this concert. So that was a great week, a great birthday week for me. October in general has just been a great music month. Now, about the concert, of course, they did a great job, but I didn't like their set list as much as previous times. 2 songs that I noticed were cut out that I was kind of not happy about being cut out were Ties That Bind and Far Beyond the Sun. And I also noticed that they played nothing from The Last Hero. I found that kind of weird. Like, it's kind of similar to 0.5 The Great Chapter. Apparently, people don't like that one as much. I really liked that one. There's some really good songs on The Last Hero, and I liked the overall sound on the album too. A lot more than the sound on Walk the Sky, but still not in a way that makes Walk the Sky seem inferior or that it sucks or anything like that. It just fell a little short of what I was hoping, but still an overall great album. Other than that, they played pretty much every song I was expecting them to play. Opening for them, they had this hard rock band called Dirty Honey that apparently were like the first independent rock band to top the rock charts or something like that, so I'm like, okay, this band's gotta be good. Their sound was very Led Zeppelin influenced, to say the least, but their singer, man, holy crap, their singer can really fucking shriek. So I'm like, okay, you've won me over. I will start following you and check out your stuff when I get home. And the other opener, as you can see on the back, because we got tour dates for this, it says the Victorious Sky Tour. This is actually a co-headlining tour between Alter Bridge and Skillet. Skillet had their new album Victorious out this year, and Alter Bridge had Walk the Sky, Victorious Sky. And Skillet put on a solid performance. I really liked their performance. They had some cool lead sounds. They aren't exactly a band I've been great at keeping up with, but overall they've always been a band that I thought were legitimately good. So not a bad early birthday present if I say so myself. Next is a band that is a little bit outside of my ballpark, but still a band that I've always really respected. They're one of my favorite 90s alternative bands. This would be Incubus. They've always been a band that had a really interesting sound. Mike Einziger, to me, is the king of the effect pedals with guitar, and I've always found Brandon Boyd to be a pretty good singer. This was actually the 20-year anniversary of their album Make Yourself, which is the album that got me into Incubus and is still to this day my favorite album of theirs. They played it front to back in full. I didn't exactly have great seats at this show, but they put on a solid show. There were only two things I didn't like about this. The first was when they played Pardon Me, they pretty much did it just with vocals and guitar, and it was slowed down a bit. The full band didn't come in until the final chorus. It was sort of a bit of a letdown there, and they also didn't play my favorite song of theirs, Dig. Other than that, this was a pretty good show, and this is the shirt I picked up. It's another really comfortable shirt. I really like the colors here. This might be the Fairly Odd Parents fan in me talking, but pink and green I always think mix well together, especially on a black backdrop. The design might be a bit edgy, but I really like the way the logo works and just, again, how comfortable it feels, and I really like this shirt. And finally, the last shirt on our agenda. This is another band that I've seen once before, but this was at my first time going to Warped in 2016, and everyone's set list on Warped is only half an hour long, and when they put out their new album this year, I decided, you know what? I think it's about time I see a full set from this band, especially given how much I adore this band and really respect them greatly. This band would be Sum 41. They are my third favorite pop-punk band after Bayside and State Champs. To me, they're pretty much the most metal pop-punk band. They're very fringe line there, and on each album, I noticed that they get gradually heavier and heavier with each album. And like I said, their new album, Order in Decline, that came out this year, even with the more political moments on the album, I still really liked the album. And a part of me was also worried, given how political this album was, that Derek Whibley would go on some political rant, but thankfully that didn't happen, and they didn't play the song 45 from that album either, which, if you don't know, is about the Trumpster. Because you know me, I hate when people go on political rants at concerts. Like, it's one thing if you're a band like Rage Against the Machine or System of a Down, and that's what you're known for doing in your music, but outside of that, I just don't really like when people do that, either at live performances or on their social media. Again, that's what led me to go after Buddy Nielsen. But this show was very energetic. This was also the 15-year anniversary of their album Chuck, which is my second favorite album of theirs after Does This Look Infected. This show was pretty goddamn hectic, as punk shows tend to be. I had a lot of fun at this. What was also cool about this is that this was actually on Halloween, so there were a lot of people dressing up there, people in like horror makeup, some people wearing masks, and there was one dude who was wearing a full frog suit. And me, I just went as an angsty pop punk kid who doesn't want to waste his time and become another casualty of society. But this was a lot of fun, and this was the shirt I picked up. Again, it's a bit edgy for my liking, but I really like the colors. You know, for a pop punk band, these are kind of metalcore colors, kind of a metalcore looking design. Sum 41 is almost like in the middle between pop punk and easycore and metalcore. And there's tour dates on the back. I like how big their logo looks on the back. And the date in Massachusetts was actually their last American date before they went back to their home of Canada. And the set list was also like near perfect. My only real qualm was that they played the Hell song kind of early in their set. I would have liked that to be a bit later, but other than that, awesome. So that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I might have another video before the one that I got planned for December out. We'll see how that goes. December, like I said at the beginning of this, is going to be pretty busy for me. But other than that, thank you for watching this video. Take care and have a nice day. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time.